Let's get started. I want to welcome everyone. Hope you had a good night's sleep and are raring to go this morning. My name is Tim Sheehan. I'm from California. I'm president of NMHOA, National Manufactured Home Owners Association. I know it's a mouthful, but we really appreciate you attending. We hope you feel this convention is valuable and that you have a lot of valuable takeaways. We're starting with a real cherished speaker for us, Pamela Danner from HUD. I'll read her bio for you. Ishbel and I have had the pleasure of serving on the Manufactured Housing Consensus Committee with HUD, and me personally, I just termed off. They have term limits, and so I'm no longer on the committee, but I've been on... December 30th. Oh, well, yeah, that's right. At the end of the year. But during my term, there was some instability among some factions of the committee, and I give Pamela a lot of credit for being a stabilizing force and getting things back on track. I want to recognize Terry Nelson from the state of Illinois, the president of their state association, who was termed out several years ago, but was the one who got me interested in serving on the MHCC. And we hope that others will show an interest. NMHOA has had a presence for years, and we feel very lucky to have a seat at the table. Some of the stuff gets pretty technical, but it's nice that we can have a seat at the table and give our opinions on things like accessibility and different aspects that affect our homeowners, and for the health and safety and durability of the homes too is a big concern of mine, and we'd like to address that more. But we're limited in time here to stay on track, so I'll just mention that Pamela Danner is the administrator of the Office of Manufactured Housing Programs at Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Ms. Danner is responsible for administrating the Federal Manufactured Housing Program pursuant to the requirements of the National Manufactured Housing Construction and Safety Standards Act of 1974 as amended in year 2000. At this point, I would like you to join me in welcoming Pamela Danner.
Thank you, Tim, so much. Can you hear me? Is this right, guys?
Yes, okay. Just maybe a little closer.
Okay. I also, Ishbel Dickens, I've had the pleasure of working with her. She is also a member of the Manufactured Housing Consensus Committee. And I'm so glad to have, can you hear now? Yeah. Is this better? Yeah, great. Oh, wow. It's like Tim
turn you up.
I am very pleased to be with you all this morning in this wonderful room, and hopefully we'll get to see the sun soon. I told many of you that I'm actually originally from Indiana, so I'm originally from the Midwest, grew up there, went to Purdue, part of the Big Ten, and then moved to DC. And actually my first job as an attorney was with HUD, in charge as the program attorney for the Manufactured Housing Program. So I've kind of been involved in this program since almost its beginning, which is now 40 years ago. Not quite all that time, but close.
If you just want to keep the microphone closer to the machine, it just turns off, I think.
And then it appears that when you turn,
it's a problem?
it doesn't read it anymore.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, when you turn the opposite direction.
Raise your hands if you aren't hearing me, okay, as we go along. I put out for all of you a booklet that is the Manufactured Home Consumer Questions and Answers Guide. It actually comes from our website, and on the back is the website. It's www.hud.gov/MHS, and there are a lot of materials on that website. But I wanted to have this printed out so you can actually see those. So it's kind of a consumer question and answer guide. And then another little brochure that also gives the website. And finally, recently we put together this financing booklet. I realized that FHA, I'm not in charge of the Title I or Title II FHA program, but just across the hall, people that are, I tried to get together with them because I realized they didn't have any materials about manufactured housing. So there is a Title I program for manufactured home only, and also it's for home and lot, and or lot only. And there is the Title II, which is the standard FHA single-family program that manufactured homes, if they are purchased with a mortgage, so with a lot and home, are certainly eligible for. They have to have a permanent foundation. But both of these, and the Title I, they do not. They just have to be built to the national model installed pursuant to the national model installation standards. So Thomas is going to help me. We're going to move through these slides. And I just want to say that I've been at HUD now in this position since the end of March 2014. And I tried to really kind of move this program along, as Tim has said, and I have a passion for manufactured housing and that it is an affordable and durable product, and it should be available. And I know that there are many issues in terms of communities that you all deal with, and I applaud you, and communities and financing. Here today, I know we have many states. I think we probably have, Ishbel, what, 14, 15? And here you have this wonderful color board.
And we've got more people who need to fill in their states that haven't done it yet.
Haven't done it yet, yeah. So I often hear from the industry, and but I decided when Ishbel invited me that I really needed to hear from you all, because you are the reason that I'm at HUD. It's about homeowners. It's about making sure that you really do have a quality product. So our purpose, what is the Manufactured Housing Program? Some people have no idea. I'm sure that you do have an idea, but we need to make sure others are aware. So as Tim said, this program started in 1974 with the National Manufactured Housing Construction and Safety Standards Act. And that act basically allowed manufactured homes to be built to a preemptive code. So homes are built to one code. It can be transported across state lines, and then not subject to inspection. The inspection is part of the federal program. So we have approved plant inspectors as well as approved design agencies that check the manufacturer's designs and that do in-plant checks of the construction to make sure that their systems are working, their quality assurance systems. And then we have a contractor that checks them. This act was substantially amended in 2000, and that's why we now have a consensus committee that makes recommendations for changes to the standards, to update them, and changes to the enforcement regulations and the installation standards. So teamwork. So we have, move back one, oh there you go. This is a picture recently of our consensus committee that Ishbel and Tim are on. We are now trying to meet twice a year, have in-person meetings twice a year. When I started, we hadn't had one since 2012. But we met in December of 2014 and again in August of 2015. It is a balanced committee, 7 consumer homeowner representatives, and they could be from different organizations too. Several are homeowners and some are actually advocates for homeowners, and 7 producers and 7 general interest or public officials. And then we have subcommittee calls. And so Tim, we're going to have 2 or 3 this fall. So Tim's still on. So we're having one this coming Tuesday about some regulation issues. And moving on. Okay, just before we move on, we also have 37 state-approved administrative agencies, so they are like our field offices. And then we have production inspection agencies, which was back, and that was a picture of all of us at a big training conference that we had last April. And as I think Terry knows, you know Randy, right? And so Randy Bolt from Minnesota is the Minnesota State Administrative Agency administrator. So he's in charge for Minnesota, and he's our partner to make sure that our standards and regulations are enforced here in Minnesota. And Terry, you were part of the Illinois group, right? And then follow the rules. So next one. We have been very busy and trying to update our standards and our regulations. So we published an on-site construction final rule in September. This actually allows more construction to be on site because, as you know, we're now doing roofs that are higher pitched. We're doing many things that are actually stucco and brick veneer that are done on site. So this kind of simplifies that process for the manufacturer and the retailer. We are also updating our third set of standards, and that hopefully will be out as a proposed rule soon, and that would require carbon monoxide detectors, for one example, in every bedroom. We are also trying to publish a recreational vehicle exemption. Tim and Ishbel were on the committee in August that proposed the, actually I think it was December of 2014, that proposed a change that we would go to the park model and travel trailer incorporated to incorporate their standards. We've had some issues with park models, tiny homes that really don't meet our exemption because they're actually manufactured homes that are for permanent or residential housing, and thanks to Ishbel and Tim, that is part of this exemption, that the exemption only applies to homes, actually vehicles, that are to be used for recreational purposes, not for permanent residential living. So we'll see where we go with that. And finally, we have 13 states. HUD is in charge of the installation program. And we have put out a notice saying our first state of the 13, Maryland, that as of November 1st, and then we have other dates, it must have, all installers must have a federal license to install. And next one. On-site completion rule, I just spoke about that, and that's the one that was published on September 8th, and will become final March, well, it's final, but the compliance effective date is March 7th. So I'm going to move on. Get professional help, and that's what we're saying in terms of installing manufactured homes that really need to be done with licensed installers and then inspected per the standards. Move on. So our installation program, we have 13 states that do not have approved installation programs. The other states have approved installation programs. So you may be in depending on your state, you may or may not be in one of our 13 states. Minnesota has an approved installation program, so this wouldn't apply to Minnesota, but it would apply to South Dakota, Nebraska, Maryland, there's several in the Northeast too that applies to.
We can find that list.
The list is on our website. New York actually has an approved installation program, and probably if you ask me, I know most of them. Utah has one. We're a little concerned about some of the states that have one, and they don't seem to really be very effective, and we're reassessing those states. They have to be re-certified, and we now are starting to really look at. So if you have a problem in Utah, I'd like to know about it, because we're reevaluating some of these. We obtained a contractor in 2014, the end of 2014, to assist us with assessing the states that are approved and setting up the programs in the 13 states. This was long overdue. So our contractor is SEBA, and they work with us on a daily basis. We meet every week, and we are kicking off the program in Maryland and Nebraska right now, and then we're rolling out the program with the other states on a rolling basis through this this year and into 2016. Next slide. Our license requirements. Each state that's approved is supposed to have a licensing, training, and inspections. So those are the three components of an approved state. And we will be looking at that. Some programs I think were going well, and then some things may have happened over the years. Our federal program requires 12 hours of training, and 4 of which has to be regarding the federal requirements. All states have to have at a minimum, we have model installation standards, and they have to meet at least the model and can exceed those standards if they wish. So the minimum is our model, and they can't exceed them. So then in the federal program, there's an exam, and they have to have a 70% pass rate on the exam. And next, installer license requirements. And then they apply for the license. They have to have so much experience, the training, as I had referenced before, and then pass the test. And then they have to, and you can go to the next, good. They have to renew every 3 years. And that they would then have to have 8 hours of training for the renewal. And, okay. So, if there is a problem, and we're talking about pointing fingers, as you may have experienced sometimes. Sometimes the manufacturer says it's not their problem, the retailer says it's not their problem, the installer says it's not their problem. So we have a dispute resolution program. And there, again, states can apply to be approved, to have their dispute resolution approved by us. And so for those states, they have their own program. There are 23 states that do not have an approved dispute resolution program. So HUD is responsible for those states. However, there again, we did not have a contractor to support us for those programs until last September 2014. I was able to get a contractor, and we have implemented that program in those 23 states and are receiving disputes now. We are also become aware that a lot of people in those states had no idea that there was a dispute resolution program. So we're working on marketing to our website, a new website. We're working on an easy way to do an online dispute or complaint through the website. We have a video that is going to go live, and I hope to show it to you all today, but it's not quite ready, but will be ready in the next couple of weeks. We will put on our website. We're hoping to have, like your organization, link or put our video, link to our site so that you can display that, or to have your various state groups have that video. And we also have a brochure that is currently on our website that explains this program. So this program is the consumer department, and then you move on. Okay, so a consumer complaint can be made for any home, and any home built to the HUD code since 1976. It is, many times, states or different departments will say, well, or the manufacturer or the retailer, if the home is out of warranty. Our program does not have anything to do with warranties. Warranties are separate. You may have a warranty with your home, but you also have the protection of the HUD program, and it is for the life of the home. Now, obviously, it excludes normal wear and tear, and there are certain things, but pretty much normal wear and tear would not be protected under this. It also applies if there's a violation of the standards or if there's an imminent safety hazard. So we have then, once we receive a complaint by any means, so a consumer can call, can write in, can fax in, can email a complaint to HUD, as well as a complaint now through our contractor. And there's also the online complaint system that we now have up and running. And this program applies to for within the first year that you have the home from the date of installation. So basically, if someone has complained in any of these methods within the first year from the date of installation, this program, it would be eligible for this program. Okay. So this is the information that we would need from the homeowner. We would need, and that the person talking to you or through the written system and the online system, this would be the information needed. The consumer, the homeowner's contact information, the manufacturer's contact information, dealer, retailer's contact information, or the community owner, if the community owner is serving as the dealer or retailer. The serial number, that's the number that's actually on the chassis, and the HUD label number, which is, the HUD label is the metallic red label that is on the outside of your home. And the date, and you can also find this information on the data plate, and the data plate is usually by the electrical circuit box or possibly in the kitchen cabinet. So I think those are mainly the two places that you would find the data plate, which would have these numbers on it. Date of purchase and description of the product. Okay, consumer complaints. So we have a system that we call Subpart I, and that just means that that is the section of the regulations that this comes from. And the manufacturer, when you or anybody else gives the manufacturer a complaint that there's a problem, the manufacturer is supposed to investigate and make a determination within 30 days as to whether or not this problem is something the manufacturer is responsible for. So the manufacturer might say, well, it's the installer. It might say, it was the transporter. But it has to make a determination. And then if it says, oh, this is something we did, then it tries to decide whether or not it's cosmetic or it is actually something that does not conform to the standards. Or if it's a life-threatening issue, then it wouldn't even have to conform to the standards. And then after that, it has 20 days to see if any other homes are affected, to see if there's a class of homes. Then once they do that, they're supposed to, respond to the homeowner and inform the state administrative agency, our partner, or HUD, if we're responsible. If they're responsible, and what they plan to do. The future. So, looking ahead, I have really expressed the need that we really need to communicate better at HUD. And I know one lady is trying to file a complaint, Tina, with the Fair Housing Department at HUD, and hasn't seemed to receive a call back. So we are trying to answer calls. We're trying to get more communication out. We have a newsletter that we're putting out on a quarterly basis that is on our website. If there is a memo that I put out saying, manufacturers, your electrical workmanship is a problem. This is what you need to do. I put that on the website. So we're trying to maintain that and have updates to that. If you would like to be,
What is the chain of command to call? So do you call your local office? Do you call like West Denver? Do you call DC?
Okay.
So
Good question. We are not part of the HUD field office, so we have the state administrative agencies. On our website, it would show you your state administrative agency. So you're from Utah, it would show you who in Utah to call, the state administrative agency and who's there. And hopefully they have a website as well. If there is, one of the states is a HUD, we have 13 that are not approved. They're not the same 13 as the installations, okay? But then you would call HUD. But you can also call HUD even if you don't know the state administrative agency, and we would then be able to refer you to your state administrative agency.
when you say HUD, you're saying DC?
My office,
Okay.
my office. And my office, and we have the, on here, the email, and then we have an email box that I have a person check on a daily basis. It's mhs@hud.gov, and there's phone numbers as well. So if you don't know, you can look on our website, see, and the information should be there, but you can also call us. I have 14 people, not that many, but we have each person on the staff is in charge of a state in terms of either being the liaison to that state if we have an approved agency, or being in charge of that state if we're in charge. Please feel free to call us. We're also,
I have a question.
Sure.
Question. I've done HUD inspections in the past prior to the mandatory requirements of the states. And I have a question about, you said about warranty and life of the unit.
right,
And I was a licensed inspector, so what we run into is, what is the life? How you determine that? Everything has a life to it, everything has an end to it.
right.
You can't just say, for the life, and all of a sudden you've got a 35-year-old trailer that's, heating system has gone bad. You've got to say, what is the life? Now, I was actually, and I went through these things, and we were given lists that were pulled up in court, that the life, everything had a life to it, and they gave it a years, 25 years, 20 years, 50 years. It can't be.
Yeah, what's your criteria?
So I'm looking to say, warranty and lifetime are two different things in HUD. So how do you separate that out? Because when I ended up in court, we had things that were way outside of the warranty. And we lost the case. There was no way that they were going to pay to get them things repaired or changed or replaced.
Why, did you argue the HUD provisions of our
And,
law?
you know, the whole thing went back to, everything has a life to it. You
Oh,
can't expect a car to last 100 years
Right.
and be tough.
Right.
And the same thing with because a lot of our homes are registered with the Department of Motor Vehicles. So, and we're not real property. So we fall under different rules.
Well, under the HUD program, I mean, the life is as long as you're living in that home. That is the life. There's no, however, the manufacturer or the retailer can certainly argue that there is consumer, requirements for maintenance and update and keeping things going, a standard thing. If, however, there is a failure to conform to the standards that didn't have anything to do with the homeowner, that problem is something that the manufacturer is responsible for, no matter how old that home is. So, but it's hard to
That's only to the first owner. If you sell it and you go through
No.
2 and 3 owners, it's going to carry through all those owners?
That's correct.
Oh, I gotta write that down.
That's correct. But they argue that it's this is a used home, or they argue that it's warranty, but it does run through. I mean, there's obviously flip arguments that certain things only last so long, and you're going to have to maintain the home and make that repair. But if there was a leak or something that really started, that the home was because the home wasn't manufactured correctly in the first place, and that leak then caused all this damage, then that stays.
So manufactured housing usually has a third-party inspection.
Right.
So now we get the third-party inspection and that state agency involved. Everybody, you did the federal point. You know, I got in the middle of this a number of times.
Right.
And
That
it's
definitely
standard up
happens.
because anybody can say, listen, your home is 47 years old. You expected the heater to last that long and run perfectly? You can't do that. So we lose those, and the HUD standard sounds good, but try to apply it.
Well, I mean, that's always going to be the case. That's the case too with the site built home. I mean, you have to replace your air conditioner, your certain things, your washer, your dryer, and that's true, okay? The life of the components is probably not the same, but we're talking about the basic structure of the home. Where are you an inspector?
In Delaware.
In Delaware? Well,
And I worked in New Jersey, Pennsylvania.
That's great.
The Virginias. I worked in Mid-Atlantic.
Are you still,
No, I retired.
well, we could use you. We need inspectors for this installation program coming up in Maryland, so.
And I know in Delaware, a couple of years ago, we passed legislation
Yes.
that they have to be licensed.
Correct.
Before that, if you were a general contractor, you had a general contractor's license.
Right.
But I worked with a lot of attorneys, that's who got my work for me, so we had to comply with laws, but there's so many nuances, and I know the HUD thing, sometimes they go in and they go like, that means nothing, your house is 47 years old, how do we know you maintained it properly?
Well-
And you're the third owner, you're not the original owner.
That's true. It's always the case. I mean, it's a case-by-case basis on many things, it's true. We would like more, oh, sorry,
On the subject of inspectors, on the installation standards, as far as in different states, what is the criteria for becoming an inspector? I mean, how are those going to be appointed? Because that's really important part that they're not
knowing what
biased.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. We, in our installation standards and standards program, the federal regulations, we have requirements for inspectors. And the inspectors can be a local inspector that's, locally hired. It can be a person that is certified under the International Code Administration. It can be a person that is part of one of our third-party approved agencies. So we have DAPI as it could be, it could be one of those people that work with those organizations. We have several. The issue that is still a problem is that we don't require any particular training for manufactured homes. It could be a registered architect, a registered engineer. We have, given that problem, we do have right now, and are working on, there's the Manufactured Housing Educational Institute that has currently put online training for installers. So now installers anywhere can take this training online and then take the test. They're working on having an online training for inspectors. And that is a gap, that you might be a local inspector but not know anything about manufactured housing.
Because I worked on my journeyman's electrician's license, and I was wanting to,
You can take this online training, which
yeah,
would be
I
perfect.
would like to get into more of an inspector. I mean, I know we have installers, but they mainly work for the mobile home parks.
Right.
And I think that I'd like to get into the inspection part of it so that they're not taking.
We need inspectors. And in fact,
There's a trick with that, because the inspectors, a lot of times, the contractors hire the installation.
Yeah.
In Delaware, it's got to be a third party that's not
Right.
associated. And there's little
Yeah.
nuances as those things go around of what you got to look for in each state's legislation, because I worked in a number of different states.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
depends a lot whether the state, what building code that they have adopted. And sometimes it's not in compliance with HUD, sometimes it is.
well, if it's an approved state, it has to have has to have adopted either our model installation standards for manufactured homes or GOES Plus.
The old homes were by a whole different standard. If they
not-
met the standard they built at that time,
Yeah.
that's what you got to deal with.
Not anymore. like Delaware has adopted the manufactured home installation standard. Any state that we approve has to have done that. And for the 13 states we are in charge of, it is the federal installation standard. And we do not, for those, so like for Maryland, as an example, we do not allow the contractor for the 13 states to employ the inspector as if somebody, I mean, the installer has to pay the inspector, but it has to be an entity that is not the same as them.
And is Kansas part of that?
Kansas has its own program, so you should look in to see it's a state-approved program.
Yeah, they don't offer any training for the installers. When I called them,
They don't?
The gentleman's name from Kansas that runs the licensing program told me that he didn't want to upset the guys.
We'll have to look into Kansas.
Yeah.
Because they have to have a training.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry, sure.
How would a homeowner find a licensed inspector?
A homeowner is not responsible for finding the inspector. Homeowner, whoever they purchased the home from is responsible for finding a licensed installer. Whether it's the community owner that installs the home, or that they bought the home from, or a retailer, whoever they purchased the home from is in charge of finding the licensed installer, whether it's licensed by the state or HUD.
Oh, right now, our sheriff, our tribal
Where is
sheriff,
this
in St. Cloud.
Minnesota.
Here in Minnesota. Okay.
Our park is closing, so what I'm trying to figure out, how would I find a licensed HUD inspector? The company that's closing our park hasn't been very forthcoming or cooperative with us. They've been more shut the door and
You need
go
to talk
behind the
to,
back.
Minnesota has a state administrative agency, Randy Vogt, and you
We've
need
been
to talk.
working with APAC and Jack Camp from the housing attorney's office.
That's
But every
good.
time they go and try to do something, we get slammed in the face, like the door hypothetically. And the thing is, I'm not 100% sure the inspector they had come around is a HUD inspector. So how would they go find one?
For Minnesota, it may not be a HUD inspector. It's probably, it could just be a state person, because Minnesota has its own program. So I don't really know you would have to check with the state administrative agency. And Randy, actually, Terry can tell you how to get hold of Randy, right, Terry?
You have another question over there.
One here.
Oh, yes.
I was wondering, in some parks, we have problems where the park itself is the cause of the damage to the home.
Yes.
Can we
Because of the
contact
installation.
HUD to complain about the landscape that is causing the damage to my house?
Okay, well, that could be an installation problem. I don't know, or is that something that's happened since?
That's one of the things I would need verified. In our case,
Where are you? I'm sorry. what's-
Oregon.
Oregon. Oregon has a state administrative agency that you should contact, and it's Mark Campion. It's on our website. Look for the Oregon State Administrative Agency. The head of that is actually Mark Long, and under him is Mark Campion. It may or may not, it depends on, Oregon has an approved installation program.
Well, I'm saying the house has been there for a while, but we can prove that the land is causing damage to the...
And maybe when it was set up, it was the soil, it was not properly graded, it's possible, I don't know.
You're right on track, but
Yes.
what I'm trying to
Yes,
find
it
out,
should
if
be
we
that
ran into a law case, would HUD come out and do an evaluation to verify this kind of thing?
What the problem is if it's an installation problem like that, HUD would not come out, but the state should investigate. So the state administrative agency of Oregon should investigate that problem
Thank you.
under their state manufactured housing installation standards.
But what we're experiencing is there's infrastructure underneath the surface. So when you have that part of it failing, the pilings that are holding up the house could be fine when you install it. But if all the infrastructure underneath the house is deteriorating, how do you deal with that? Because you really, I mean, we have no control over any of that. And I don't know how HUD would even help in that situation other than,
Well, we have had several recently, even in New York. There's a situation where the homes they were using a monolithic slab that wasn't put in correctly under the frost line. And so there are, I mean, if you can trace it to that, in terms of how the installation was actually not done in accordance with the standards, or even the manufacturer's instructions, that might be a possible relief, but it really is, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to trace that sometimes.
yes, but with the regulate, like for New York, upstate New York, you've got a lot of, you know, snow.
New York?
No, I'm in Virginia, but
Oh, okay.
I used to live in New York.
No, New York has some issues that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, because I would assume your frost line's gonna change based on what state you're in.
Yes, correct.
And so the regs would have to change, so.
No, we just say it has to be below the frost line.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter where you are.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We probably wrap up
Yeah,
in
I-
a few minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I really appreciate being here and
Very compliant.
and please email us or contact us. That's what we're there for, and I really wish you the best. We have great leadership. So.
Hopefully you all learned a lot. It was very valuable information. As a token of our appreciation, we'd like to give you a little gift, Pamela, and thank you very much. And we hope to have a continuing presence on the MHCC from our NMHOA people. And
I should tell you, Ishbel, you know, we have an online application system with Kevin's group, and we really want people from the homeowner side to be members. So
Yeah.
please think of who you would like to put in for Tim's spot, and we would like it as soon as possible. So it's an online submission, so we would really appreciate your recommendation. Right? Thank you.
very good.
Thank you.